So the WNBA mock draft board is came out came out, and Paige Bueckers might go number one. She might go number one. Now it's too early for me to predict if it's too early for me to predict that she's going to go that she's the number one pick. It seems that way. It seems that way that Paige is probably going to go number one in this draft, in this 2025 draft. It seems that way because of the fact that she is she is going to be the most talked about college player, like we did talk about Caitlin Clark last year in the WNBA. Like we did talk about Caitlin Clark last year in the WNBA. Like we did talk about Angel Reese last year. But Paige Bueckers is going to be the number one pick in this WNBA draft because I think she's more ready. She's ready for the WNBA because when you look at it, this is probably she could enter this year's draft or stay in college for one more year. I know it's too early for me to predict, for me to say that Paige Bueckers is going to go and is going to be the number one pick because that could change. That could change on people mock draft boards. That could change on people mock draft boards on where Paige will go in the next couple of months. That could change which team would Paige go to. But the teams that I can see drafting her in April or March, whenever the WNBA draft is, like the WNBA is getting 13 new teams. It's getting 13 new teams and getting 13 new teams. It's getting 13 new teams, and the format is changing as well when Paige gets into the league. Paige is going to be the most talked about player, like we talked about Caitlin Clark last year, like we talked about Angel Reese last year. She's going to be the most her and JoJo and Juju Watson. Her and Juju Watson are going to be the most talked about players. The most talked about players. And I'll get into Juju in a second. Now, I do think with Paige going number one, and with Paige going, with Paige, with Paige probably being on mock boards right now in the WNBA as the number one pick. When we look at the teams in the WNBA that need a point guard like Paige, the Sky need a point guard now. Dallas Wings need a point guard. Probably the Fever. I think with Paige on mock board drafts, she could be the most talked about player, in the in college basketball, like we talked about Caitlin Clark last year, like we talked about Angel Reese last year on mock draft boards. She will probably be the most talked about player. But we will just have to see how the college season goes for Paige, how the college season goes, because because Kentucky, I mean UConn UConn can honestly win the March Madness. UConn could honestly win the March Madness. And I'm not saying like Duke or anybody like that could win in March Madness. I'm saying in like a couple months, if Paige Bueckers' name is still on mock boards as the number one pick, as the number one pick, then we could say she's going to go number one. She's going to be the most talked about player in college basketball this whole year. This whole year, in my opinion. In my opinion. Now that she's probably going to go number one, number one, number one in the draft this year. This year. Because on mock drafts, when we look at mock drafts, people have players at number one, and then mock drafts change, mock draft changes. So it could be very interesting going down to it. Going down to it. But guys, sub if you're new and never give up your dreams. And I hope all of you guys are safe out there. And stay blessed, everybody. And peace.